Hello everyone and welcome back to the third installment of the development diaries dedicated towards the development of the new Turf Battles client. So we have a couple different things to show you guys today, just on what we've been working on over the past 2 weeks, and some of our ongoing projects. But to get started, we're going to go ahead and make a Blue Mage. I know we started this series off with a Blue Mage, but there was a change that happened um, during this development cycle that we wanted to kind of show you guys, um, which is why we're making this Blue Mage. Okay. So, the first thing we wanted to kind of go over was NPC stores. I know we covered this on the last video, but we also mentioned that there was a small little snag uh, with the stores themselves, in the sense that the categories tabs went across and over the interface. Um, that was an issue that we just decided to resolve by reducing the number of tabs as well as the tab size for each store. If you look at the previous video, they were a lot larger. And in addition to that, any tabs that were larger, or any stores that had more than 4 tabs, which happen very rarely, were kind of shifted to other tabs or merged together. So for example, with this store, we merged all the classes into their own race tab. So humans have Fist Warrior, Blade Warrior, and Red Mage, and then Nephilim has the Archer and Blue Mage equipment. Again, this really only happened with beta stores. There were 2 outliers, the Turf Shop and I think the Purified Orb Merchant. And we kind of just resolved that by making the change that we just described for the Purified Orb Merchant. But for the Turf Shop, what we ended up having to do was kind of merge the tabs together. So if you go to the Etc. tab, now you also have all these teleport scrolls. And then similarly, if this was the Triumph server, potions would also be on this tab. So just a simple fix to that issue. Um, so moving forward, we want to show you guys the production skills and the crafting system that's associated with them. So to start us off, we're just going to go to the materials NPC and buy a couple things just so that we can craft. And just 2 of each one should be more than enough. And I think while I'm here, I'm actually going to set my level. We'll do 300. And again, we're just demoing things, so we're just going to auto stat. And we're going to start crafting after we finish this quest from Jakar. Okay, so this is the production window, or the crafting window. It's exactly the same as it was in the Turf Battles client that players are currently using. We kind of just re-implemented it on this version. And we just want to quickly show that it is working. We can start off by maybe finding out what we need to make a Centurion helmet. So bronze, leather, strap, and patch. We'll try and remember that. So bronze we'll make 5 of, strap we'll make 5 of, leather we'll make 5 of, and I think the last one was patch. So let's see if we have enough now. So we do. And again, if you haven't seen this interface yet, or you're coming back to the game, it's a pretty simple to use system. It's a lot easier than the original Turf Battle system. Basically, here you have the required level for that stat that you need to craft this item. Here's how much EXP you'll gain if you do craft this item. And here's the total required materials that you need, as well as how many you currently have. Now, if you don't have enough items or enough of a level in production, that's just going to show up as red. Just as an example, right here, we can't make this yet, so we have blacksmithing in red, and we have all the materials in red because we don't have enough. But we'll go ahead and craft one. We'll just enter 1 because we only want to make 1, and we'll craft it. And there it is, the Centurion helmet. Now if we go into our stats window, we can see that we did level up our refining and our blacksmithing, and that does change. Something that you guys are also now seeing is that the production tab was added. It's exactly how it was in the original client. I mean, it does look a lot better with this new UI, of course, but the general functionality is there. So when you hover over it, you get that little description as well as your skill level. Each production skill has your level as well as your current EXP and the name of the skill. Just real quickly, we did kind of have to remake the basic and specific tabs just so that in the future, if we want to add additional tabs, so say we had basic, specific, production, and then tab 4 or something, that would have been a lot harder to do with the previous system, but now it's a lot cleaner system, and it would be very easy for us to add it. Okay, so that brings us to the next topic that we wanted to show you guys, and this kind of had to do with a comment that we received about the latest update, specifically relating to blue mages. Um, if you were following along with the patch notes of the last update, you would have seen that we changed the set effect of the Borea set to instead of doing a crit, which is times 2 damage, it did a multiplier damage, or sorry, a percent damage, an increase in damage by a percentage. Sorry. So what one user had to say was that this change made it harder to combo, specifically because they no longer had that giant green text pop up that said critical, because they weren't doing it critical anymore, just normal damage, but it was multiplied. So what we decided to do, at least for this version of the client, was that we introduced a new type of indicator that says special. Now anytime this pops up, um, it'll be because a set effect triggered some kind of special multiplier on your damage against the player or the monster. Now with Ice Crystal, um, I can't use it right now, so I'm going to pause the video just so I can unlock my stats. Okay, so I've just unlocked my stats, and again with this set we do need Ice Crystal for the effect to trigger. And I'm just going to keep attacking until it happens. And there it was. If you notice, the special was in blue, and so was the damage that you were doing. And that brings us to our next change, the maximum damage. So based off of the feedback that we received on the Ice Crystal change, we thought it would be pretty cool to show when you're doing close to, if not the highest amount of damage that you could do, depending on your min and max values. And that happens by displaying the min and max, or sorry, the max indicator in orange that you guys just saw. See if I can get that to trigger again. There it is. Now the way that's kind of coded is that if you are within 2% of your max damage, that will pop up. And the idea is that it should just help players be able to combo more efficiently, because they'll know when to release their heavy hitting attacks. Now, something another player said, which we didn't quite agree with, but we figured, hey, what the hell, we'll add it, was that sometimes you might not want to see that max damage indicator because it can pop up quite frequently depending on the weapon you use and your class. And so what we did was we started making changes to the options window, and that brings us to our next feature. I don't think we've opened this in any of our previous videos, but before, this options window was solely comprised of the video, audio, game, and chat tab, which we haven't really changed too much. We just kind of left it as was. But what we did add was this option where it says show maximum damage indicator. So if you don't want to see that indicator, just turn it off, close the options, and you won't see it. It'll just appear as normal damage. Again, it's probably a lot better if you do have it on just for maximizing your damage output, but it's there. to go along with the options changes, we had to re-implement the chat filter or the language sensor for the game. We had added that quite a long time ago for the Turf Battles client. It had been so long I almost forgot it existed. But it's back in here now. I'm not too sure what kind of words I can say. So, for example, I just typed in the word shit, and if I take the filter off, now I can say it. And similarly, if you receive any kind of messages from other players, um, if you have the sensor on, it'll censor it. If you have the sensor off, it won't censor it. It's as simple as that. Um, one more thing to do with damage indicators. In the current version of Turf Battles, you were able to, or in all versions of Turf Battles, you're able to miss. The issue was that in the current version of Turf Battles, you didn't really know that you missed. You just didn't receive any kind of notification, but the person that you hit was notified that you missed. We kind of changed it so that both players now see if you miss. I'm just trying to get that to happen. There it was. It was very brief, but it was just a orangey reddish text that flew far to the left. If you didn't catch it, you can just rewind the video. And finally, we just have the stun system that we got going. I'm just going to try and stun myself until I can. There it was. That was stun. And again, there goes stun. I'm probably going to die. Stun, can't move. So that was something we hadn't re-implemented yet, but it was good to see it back in the game. Alright, so moving on. We just have a couple little other minor bug fixes that we addressed. So you may have already noticed, but when you visit the mailbox or you open the pet UI or the cosmetic loadouts UI, before it was a white background, and we noticed that it was very pixely with that white background, so we just decided to change that to the smooth red just so it fits with the rest of the client. And I have nothing in my mailbox to show. That's okay. So every system got that change. One other problem we noticed from the last video was that this scroll bar wasn't really aligning, so we fixed that. There was a couple other alignment issues we resolved. And then finally, something else I had mentioned in the last video was the item destroy feature, or item delete feature. We re-implemented that just like we had it in the old Turf Battles client. Basically, if the item is locked, which again you can tell based off of this background or this gold border and this little lock icon, then you can't drop it, but you can delete it. So you just right click, click delete, and then you have to type in the word delete, and it's gone. It's as easy as that. That's all we have for today. We're going to be back with another video in 2 weeks, of course. Hopefully we'll have some kind of new content for you. I know we mentioned that we were going to introduce skills, advanced skills or secondary skills in this video. We just didn't get around to it with our limited time. So we'll try and get that in for the next one. If you guys have any feedback or concerns about the changes that we've implemented, feel free to do so. I also kind of wanted to point out one last thing. Something that users have been asking for a while was a kind of subscription setting menu, where you can toggle automatically picking up items or that kind of thing. So that is something, of course, we can add to this new options setup, or as its own little interface. But again, that's a new feature for down the road when we have already re-implemented all of the existing functionality that Turf Battles has to offer. Alright guys, see you in 2 weeks.